This is my geometry course. Today we're going to take test number 2. In the previous class, we did a practice test together, and I also gave you a practice test for homework. If you haven't done that practice test for homework, do not watch this video and take test number 2. If you haven't finished those 2 practice tests, then it's very unlikely that you're going to pass this test. And if you fail this test, then all the work that I put into writing it is going to be for nothing. So please do not take this test unless you have finished those practice tests. And remember, if you want to get an A on the test, then you need to make sure that you know everything that we learned, not just the things on the practice tests. Now, if you don't write your name on your test and the date and the course title, which is of course geometry, then you're going to lose a point for each one of those omissions. So go ahead and write your name, the date, and the course title. Like all my tests, there are going to be 25 problems, and each problem is worth 4 points for a total of 100 points. And I want to mention, if a problem requires a lot of steps and most of the work that you show is correct, then you can still get half credit for that, a maximum of half credit, even if your answer is wrong. So you really just want to get as much on the page as you possibly can. If you're doing a proof and you can only write half of the proof, then write half of the proof. You're going to still get half credit. Now you might be wondering, is there a time limit for the test? I personally don't care how long it takes for you to finish the test. If it takes you 45 minutes or 5 hours, it doesn't really matter to me. My objective is for you to demonstrate that you know something, to get something on the page. If you finish the test in 1 hour or 5 hours, it doesn't make any difference. If you can do the test, then you can do it. But just be aware that when you go to school, they're not going to give you 5 hours to take a test. So you need to try to finish the test as quickly as you can. And when you take this test, you need to demonstrate that you can do it on your own. So no textbooks, none of my previous the notes you took or the screenshots from my classes. Your internet should be turned off. No phone, unless you're just going to use your phone as a calculator. I don't think you'll need a calculator, but no help from anybody. All this information that you need to pass the test needs to be coming from you and you alone. So let's go ahead and get screenshots of the test. This is screenshot number 1, or you can take pictures with your phone, however you want to do this. And screenshot number 2. And screenshot number 3. And number 4. And number 5. And number 6. And number 7. And number 8. And that is the test. So go ahead and take the test, and when you're done, I'm going to give you the answers to the test so you can actually figure out how well you did. And of course, don't look at the answers before you take the test, because the purpose of this test is to prove that you actually know something. If you look at the answers, well, that doesn't prove anything. So the most important thing is to prove to yourself that you can do this. That if you take a geometry course, you're able to pass it. And you also want to prove to your parents or anybody out there that you can do this material. But if you just look at the answers, or if you're looking on the internet or so on and so forth, then that doesn't really prove anything. So I'm going to give you the answers after you're done, and I'm going to show you how to score and grade the test. So pause the video, and when you're done with the test, come back to this point in the video, and I'll give you the answers and we'll score the test. All right, we're back. So you should have finished the test. And so now I'm going to give you the answers. Here's screenshot number 1 and screenshot number 2. So at this point, now that you have the answers, I'm going to give you some guidelines, and we talked about this for test number 1, but maybe we should just go over this. Like I said, each problem is worth 4 points for a total of 100 points. If a problem has 4 parts, then each part is worth 1 point. If a problem has 2 parts, then each part is worth 2 points. This is pretty obvious stuff. If a problem has 1 part, then obviously it's worth 4 points. I already mentioned this. If a problem requires multiple steps, and you did all the work correctly, but for some reason your answer was wrong, you could still get half credit. And when it comes to proofs, assign credit equally to each part of the proof. That may require fractions. I know that's kind of difficult to deal with fractions, but if a problem has, let's say a problem has 9 parts, then each part is worth 4/9 of a point. If a problem has 13 parts, then each part is worth 4/13 of a point. If a proof has 6 parts, then each part is worth 4/6 of a point. And so that's the way you want to do it. So you might have to use your calculator to make things a little easier. And if you didn't write your name, the date, or the course title, you got to subtract a point for each one of those. So that's a -3 if you didn't do those 3. So at this point, go ahead and score your test. And when you come back, we'll talk about how to grade your test. So pause the video, score your test, and when you come back, we will grade the test. All right, we're back. So grading, this is how it's done in the United States. This may not be familiar to you if you're outside the United States, but this is just the way that we typically do it here. If you scored 90 to 100, that's considered a grade of A, meaning excellent. B, 80 to 89 is a B, that's good. And 70 to 79 is good enough, adequate. But anything below that is failing, so that's pretty obvious stuff there. I don't really need to explain much there. Now, what do you do if you scored lower than a 70? If you are down in this region here, what does that mean? What do what's your plan at this point? It doesn't mean that you have to quit the course. It tells you very important information. If you scored up here, that's very important information, because that means that you're doing what you need to do. You have enough to say that you're learning this material. It's very, very useful information for you. But if you scored lower than a 70, that's also very, very useful information for you, because that tells you that whatever you're doing is not enough. You need to put more effort in and more time. And I know that's the last thing you want to hear, but it's time to get serious about your math education. Math is not the type of thing that you can just put partial effort into. It doesn't work that way. You have to learn fluency in the language of mathematics, and that requires full commitment. So you either learn fluency or you don't. That's it. There's only 2 options. So if you scored below a 70, that means that you need to put in more effort. And it doesn't mean that you have to quit the course. But if you scored low on test number 1 and you scored low again on test number 2, then that's a big warning sign. That means that you're not doing the homework, you're not doing it properly, you're not doing it correctly. And we have 4 more tests, and then a cumulative test, a 2-part cumulative test. So you still have a chance to show that you can actually do this material. But at this point, we've taken 2 tests, and if you're scoring low on both those tests, that means that you need to change something. But if you pass the test, good job. And I'll see you on the next part of the course. We're now moving on to part 3 of the course. So I'll look forward to seeing you in the next class.